Yeah, you have that on pretty good. It might could go a notch more snug.
Okay.
Let me take a look here. With these puppies, yeah, let's go a little bit more snug here.
She's got so much fur.
Yeah, and then she's got that thin neck that her fur kind of makes it look thicker than it really is.
Yeah.
And because of that, what we'll do here, hold on, sweetheart. 1 second.
I told you I wasn't going anywhere, Shelbs.
I'm right here. Right here. It's okay. There we go. So we want this real snug because since she does have this kind of curly, dense coat here, is with the 2 probes, it'll inhibit contact.
Yep.
And that's something that my employees have had issues with. It's not uncommon. We're going to see how she does with you guys. The main thing that we care about, of course, is that there's consistency in that contact. And there's special probes for that if needed.
Okay.
And today the stuff that we're going to cover is going to be easy stuff that you can do indoors.
Okay.
So you're not worried about, they're not really complexities. Eco is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
But trying to figure out something when it's like 7 degrees is not really something you want to do. Right?
That's been a challenge getting her outside. So.
Yeah. So this simple stuff, we're going to work on the sit down and place command.
Okay.
Typically we would work on the heel. Okay, heel is the walking at your side,
Yep.
no pulling, auto sit, and all that stuff.
I did watch the video.
Okay, so you're familiar.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
It's not going to be top of mind. You're still going to have to teach me, but I did watch the video.
So any questions before we get started?
No, just I want to make sure I'm using, this is the tap, or this one right
The
here?
bumpy button, that is
Yep.
correct, okay?
We're just tapping it, right?
Yes, and I'll be telling you tap and all that stuff.
Okay.
Is everything already turned on?
Yeah, I mean, this is on.
Okay, so go ahead and hit that pager function on the front there. Yep, that is on, okay? So if you ever turn it on and have maybe forgotten, instead of tapping on the remote with the stem, we just do the pager function. Because then you'll skip, it's like a cell phone, just a flat vibrate.
Got it.
And that tells you you're good to go. So here, the way we've taught Shelby is using pressure, okay? E-collar, of course, is a level of discomfort. Every dog has a differing range in what they can tolerate.
Yep.
And we go as low as possible, as high as needed.
Yep.
Now, the reason why we're telling Brittany to give Shelby more time is because Shelby is she's more flight responsive, right? She's very flighty, meaning when she goes under stress, she wants to run away.
Yep.
And that's not something that can be fixed in just 2 weeks.
Yep.
It's something where she needs prolonged exposure, and eventually she learns, okay, running away from stuff doesn't help. Moving with pressure helps.
Got it.
Okay, so that's why we were saying that take more time between her sessions, because she wouldn't get the full kind of a benefit from it. Because I was supposed to see you guys sooner. Yep. But that very heavy snow day, I got stuck here for like 3 hours. I was in the snow. I couldn't get it to my facility. Now it's not just her here, it's her here and at home being exposed, and that's just going to create that confidence and help her get over that flight response more quickly.
So when we go for walks and she wants to run, it's really weird, and it sounds like it's been a little different here. She doesn't run from big dogs, she runs from little yappy dogs.
Sure.
So when she runs, should I hold the leash and then kind of whatever, hit this thing?
Is it so like, are you walking and the dog is like lunging at her and barking and she's trying to get away from him?
Noises. She gets flighty with noises.
Okay, sure.
So like at night, so as an example, the other night we have this backyard smaller than this room, right? And I'm out there and she hears helicopters, dogs barking in the distance, and like she's so distracted, like even there when it's not in her presence, that it's hard for her to go to the bathroom because that distracts her.
Yes, okay. So the bathroom part's going to be difficult, okay? Because that's obviously she's under stress. The last thing on her mind is like going potty, okay? So don't worry about trying to fix that. What I would fix though is her running away. Yeah. Okay, so what you would do there is we're going to make it simple. Let's say helicopter is here. She's running at the end of the leash. You're simply going to crouch down and you're going to start remoting and you're going to just go up until she returns. Don't worry about come. Don't worry about any of that stuff, okay? Come is obedience. Yep. When I say this, you come here, right? And what we want her to learn instead is when you hear helicopter, don't run away, run to me.
Same with dogs.
Same with dogs. Okay, you want to, because we can't make her like these things, right? Yeah. Dogs, whatever sounds. But if I have a dog that's super flighty, instead of running away from me, I want them to run to me.
Is that essentially teaching her to find comfort in you as opposed to running away? Is that the lesson?
Yeah. Well, that like we don't want her running away.
Well, yeah, that part. But I mean, is the kneeling down and getting her to come to give
it's
her.
It's easier for her.
Got it.
Yeah, dogs. So like, if a dog ever gets off leash, the first thing I do, if they're not trained, is I crouch down.
Okay.
Most people tend to chase.
Yeah.
And chase pushes away. So in your case, if it's helicopter based, crouching down and like, hey, is not going to help. It's more so that when she sees that all happening with the remote, it's a very clear picture for her to return to.
Got it.
Okay, it just makes it easier for her, as opposed to like even though you're her family, you're still much taller, you're still looming.
Yep.
And if she's already under stretch from this, and you're like this, harder.
Got it.
But here, much more inviting.
Got it.
Okay, so yeah, we want to override that flight response by default.
Got it.
So that's why we don't say anything. The moment I see her go into flight response, in response to helicopter, train, dog yapping, I want her to run to me.
Okay.
Because you might be distracted having a conversation with Brittany, something spooks her, she yanks the leash, oh, slipped out of my hand.
You want her to come to you when that happens.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
So let's go and bring Miss Shelby over here. And the first thing we're going to do is, what are we currently set up on that remote?
I just turned it on. It's on 40, but you guys said on the video you had a what, 50 or 60?
Okay, let's go down to 10.
Go down to 10?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm going to show you how to get contact. Okay. So we have 3 levels. We have connection, perception, and working, which I think Enrique covered in the video, right? And I'm going to show you how to find that working level. Okay. So when I say tap, you're going to press that bumpy button. Okay. So I look at Shelby and tap, tap, tap. No response. Let's go to 20. And if you land 1921, that's fine. And tap, tap, tap. 30. Tap. Wait a moment. Tap. Hold your leash. Tap. 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 35. Tap. 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 40. Tap. 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 45. Tap. Tap. 50. Tap. Tap. 55. Tap. 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 Wait a moment. Tap. 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 60. Tap. Tap. 65. Tap. 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 There it is. Did you see that twitch? Tap one more time. Tap. There it is. Okay, so you see how she assumed and went here, okay? So we're at 65. Now I'll tell you right now, there was no contact until 60, 65. Okay, because that's when you start to see the neck contract, okay? So even though you could be on 100, if you see nothing moving, there's no connection. Okay, and that's part of her thick fur. Okay. So I'm gonna talk to my guys, and then we'll recommend an adapter for you so you get more consistent contact. Because the last thing you want is an emergency situation and you're trying to figure out what to do with the remote because of contact, right? Because of, and size doesn't matter, but seeing how sensitive she can be, when we have good contact, we should be able to get much lower than that, okay? So here, the place command, okay? Are you familiar with that?
Not overly so.
Okay. So with the place command, so we have 3 stationary commands: sit, down, and place.
Got it.
Sit would be this.
Yep.
Right? Down would be lay down.
Yep, in places.
Go to this object, okay?
Got it.
Now go to this object is much more lenient than sit and down.
Got it.
Okay, sit is this, down is this, there's no in between, okay? With place, it's go here, don't move.
Got it.
I don't care what you do. You can sit, you can stand, you can lay down, chew on a bone, play with a friend, whatever.
Place of her choice? Is it a place that we're trying to get to a specific, identify in the house?
Sure, so like, does she have a dog bed?
Yep.
Yep, so you would use her dog bed, right?
Got
it can also be a towel, it can be a blanket, it can be an area rug. It just has to be something that has a perimeter, okay? You cannot point to the corner and say place, because there's nothing that ends this way, okay? So here, what we're gonna do is, the word that we use is break. Break means her job is done, okay? So even though you did not say place, right, verbally, because she's been trained and conditioned, Shelby thought, hey, that object is here, that we usually do training with. So I'm going to assume that I'm supposed to go here. So in her mind, she's technically under command. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to go ahead and release her. Our release word is break. Okay. Break meaning job is done. It is a universal release command for sit, down, come, place, or heel. Okay. So I'm going to have you say break, and then you're going to move backwards. Break. And then give it a little bit of a pull. Yep, and move backward. There you go. Good, right there. And when you present Shelby to the object, she may assume, oh, Dad's just going to send me, right? If she assumes, you're actually going to restrain her. Don't allow her to get to the object, okay? We're going to keep her back, and then we're going to relax. I don't want you holding her back. We have to ease tension, because if you ease the tension and she goes there, then clearly she still wanted to go there, right? I want her to go in response to our verbal cue, okay? So go ahead and just pivot around. There we go, so the leash is out your way. And you're going to cue the word place, and then you're going to tap when I say tap, okay? Go ahead and cue it. Place, tip. And then take a step forward, tip, right there. Good. Now take a step back. Okay, so here, once you've sent her, her job not to step off, okay? So here, whenever we send her, we want to keep some distance, because in the beginning, if you're right there to them, they'll only be staying there because either you're providing some sense of comfort because you're so close, or it's confrontational, right? So face-to-face is confrontational, so like when we get in an argument, first thing we do is get close, right? So same thing for the dog. If you're in her face like that, I don't know if she's staying because you're there, or because of that confrontational presence, okay? So then we always step away, because then what will happen is you'll see her want to follow, okay? Now you see the shaking here, okay? This is a stress response. So here in the beginning, this is where you guys in practicing and applying the e-collar as well is going to help her get over this stuff. When people see the shaking or like what kind of looks like mopiness, they feel that, and they tend to hold back, right? So dogs toughen up their puppies by nipping and biting. Okay, so what happens is people get puppies at 2 months, and when they're raising them, they're obviously not nipping and biting them. So the puppies are not getting that physicality that they would get if they grew up with their litter mates or with their mom or dad. So here, think of this physicality as your means of nipping and biting her, okay? So we like instinctually want to lay off pressure. Really what she's needing is more pressure, okay? But the reason why we went to 10 earlier is because I need to find, do we even have contact? Because let's say we had contact at 10, we wouldn't be at 55 or 65 or whatever, we'd be at 10, right? So we went 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 until we found that number, and then she showed us by stepping onto the placemat that she felt it, because we saw a response. And they go, okay, that's the number we're going to operate at. As we continue to operate, if Shelby gives us a little yip, okay, as much as you may feel bad, don't try to console her. Always either be indifferent or upbeat, okay? All we do is adjust the collar, we dip down lower, and then work our way back up again, okay? So think of it as like a child. A child's on the bike, and they fall off, and we make a big deal about it, right? We can potentially raise a drama king or queen, right? However, if we're like, hey, you okay? Dust yourself off, you're good, get back on, continue riding that bike. You teach a child to recover, okay? So this is very much the same. So even though your intention may be to console her and make her feel better, petting is a reinforcer. So really what you're telling her is, yes, you should be freaking out about this.
Got it.
Okay, so whenever you pet Shelby, I just want you to think, what am I telling Shelby to do again? Right? So if she's barking at you and you pet her to console her, to calm her down, you've actually just told her, keep barking at me. Or bark at me when you want something else. Okay? We're going to go ahead and cue that word break and step back. Break. Good. And we're going to take just a couple steps forward. Right there, that's good. 1 second, so right there, she's kind of assuming this is good. We're going to wait a moment. All right? Place. Place. Tap. Tap. And a little bit of a pull forward. Tap. Right there. Got a girl. Good job. Good. And break. Break. Backwards. Yep. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Good. Good. And here, tap. Good. So right there, do you know what that jump was for? What? Comfort seeking. Got it. Dad, stop it. Right? And here, it sounds, mean, but she's seeking comfort from the remote. So then you use the thing she's seeking comfort from to actually correct her. right? So you're teaching her like, hey, like this is just a part of life. It's okay. If you want less remote, respond faster and don't seek comfort. You have to take this on yourself. Okay. Place.
Place.
Yeah. Excellent, right there. Pretty simple stuff, huh?
And when she goes to place, the way she walked around, as long as she's in the place, is that okay?
Correct, right? So like, let's say she was walking like this, that would be fine, because she's within the perimeter. If she did this, where she took a single step off, that we would correct.
Got it, but the goal is to get her in that area, not necessarily sit or lay.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What she does after the fact doesn't matter, as long as she stays within the threshold. Okay? So, and you can have more than one place within the home.
Got it.
It can be a dog bed in the living room, it can be like a towel in the bathroom, it can be a blanket in the, one of the kids' rooms or something like that. It's go here, don't move, and she's going to interpret place depending on the context. So if you're in the living room, she would go to the one in the living room. I highly doubt she'd go to the one in the kitchen, right? If you're in the kitchen, she'd go to the one there. Place is also transferable. So like, let's say you carried a towel in your car, and you go to a restaurant, and you plop it down, Shelby, place. She goes there. Right, because that's another object she recognizes. Yeah. So it can be anything as long as there's a perimeter. Okay. Here, keeping Shelby, and this is something that she struggles with, stationary for a period of time. Okay. So she's a young dog, right? She's a pup. She wants to move and stuff, kind of like a kid. And I liken this to kind of like growing up when we went to church. My mom was like, "You have to be quiet."
That's a great analogy,
right? And you're a kid.
For an hour?
Yeah. And you're sitting there, and you're fidgeting, right? And you're quiet and stuff. Because as a kid, you want to move. So for dogs like Shelby and young pups, it's good mental exercise. Okay, having her stay put for 30 minutes or an hour is very mentally challenging. Different form of exercise. Exercise does not always have to be physical, just like with people. Right? You can go running, go to the gym, but also doing math or using their brain and learning something new is also tiring. Okay? So I'm gonna have you go to release her, take a step back, break, a little bit of pull. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to repeat this process, but this time, when you say place and you send her, once she goes, I'm going to have you start moving around the object. Okay? Go ahead and place.
Place.
Yep. Good. Go ahead and walk around. That's okay. Tap. 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 A little bit of release pressure. Tap. 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 There we go. Good. Now here, if you want to get more immediate leverage over Shelby, grab higher, closer to where the collar is. So this way you're more like this as opposed to this.
Got it. Okay.
So go ahead and continue walking around. Tap. Tap. Right. Much better. Good. Hang out right there. Now go ahead and take a couple steps back. Right. And the reason why we're doing that is to see if she would kind of feel like she's being invited to come off, right? Go ahead and cue break. Break. And a little bit of a pull. Good. Tap. Right. Good. Wait a moment. Good. Go ahead and just pivot so she's back on her side.
Yeah, I know. We're going to the doctor.
And
what was it?
Place. There we go. Now, did you even get a chance to get there? Because it was quick.
Yep. I was about to, and she will. Now, if she's in process of walking there, I don't want to hit it, right?
That's correct. Okay. So here, I know, sweetie. Here, that's what we're trying to create. Is every time you give a command, it's immediate. We don't want delay. Okay, so.
This is for the delay to reinforce, right?
Correct. Right? So here, people want to give their dogs every opportunity to avoid the collar. We use every opportunity to apply the collar, okay? Because if there's any delay, the most important command that we have is the recall, come and call, okay? That's the one that if she's running away for whatever reason, is going to make a return. Is if we allow delay for place, sit down, heel, or whatever, you're going to get delay and recall. So if she's running towards the street, that 2 to 3 second delay, she could be in the street by that point, right? So that response there, place, boom, she shot there, perfect. We don't remote.
Got it.
So now she's learning, if I respond fast enough, I can beat the punch. And that's why all our obedience is very quick and punchy. okay, is because we're using every opportunity to layer it in as much as possible. Okay. So negative can also be a motivator. Okay. Positive, not all motivators are positive, right? So for me growing up, you know, I know if I didn't get grades, I was raised also I was spanked, right? And so I was like, all right, I don't want to get spanked, so I'm going to get straight A's. Okay. So for her, of course, the consequence is that pressure. Okay. It's going to cue the break. Break. Aim backwards. Okay, the girl, kid. Just a little pivot there. And wait a moment. Place.
Place.
Right there. The girl. Going to try moving around. Good. And move around. Perfect. Alright, good. Good. Now you're going back away. Good. Break. Break. Excellent. You're going to try one more.
Well, is there a specific reason she's going behind me like that?
She does a slight response.
Got it.
Place.
Place.
Dip. 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 Right there. So think of it as like, with kids, when they're unsure of someone, what do?
They hide.
They hide, right? Hide behind the parent or whatever, go between the legs and stuff. Same kind of concept.
Got it.
Is here she's going, I don't like this game, I'm gonna get away from it, right?
Okay.
And I tell everybody, I know it sucks, you know, to see the dog go into flight response, but that's reality. And if we don't work through that, we have unreliable obedience, right? So here, when she's running towards the door, that's flight response. And you said place. And she goes, but I'm scared. And you go, I know you're scared, but you still have to do this, right? And then the remote is what allows you to reinforce. Okay. And we're not being forceful, we're not yanking her, we're not yelling at her, we're not being mean to her. The e-collar is all the pressure that we need to get her to break through flight and go like, okay, I really want to run away, but I can't, I'm gonna have to perform this command, okay? Now with her staying put, we're not saying anything, right? You're just tapping. And that's absolutely 100% correct. So when we cue the word of place, the stay is implied. We don't say stay, okay? The way we create that implication is every time she tries to sneak off, when you just started tapping and there was no warning, that's actually what's teaching her that concept.
That's implied.
Yes.
So it's, you don't say anything to say, you don't say place again.
Correct. You just jump to the remote, okay? So for dogs, the way their brains work is if you say place and she gets off and you say place again. Place means go here, don't move, right? So when she gets off and you say place again, you're resetting the command. You've actually not taught her to not move, okay? So for a kid, you can say, sit on this chair and don't get up or you won't get dessert. And they can process all that. And they go like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit here on this chair because I want to eat dessert, right?
My kid's acting like that.
So for Shelby, she has to you can't say that to her, right? You can't say like, hey Shelby, if you go here, you don't get off, you're gonna be fine. You won't get corrected, right? She has to actively try it, be corrected for it, and go like, oh, I guess that's not an option. Got it. Okay. E-collar should also never feel like a remote. I mean, not so much a remote. It should never feel like an argument. So like right here with the tap, you see how pretty straightforward it is, and she's going there. Very little resistance, right? She's giving into the pressure. So if you're tapping Shelby and she's just like don't want to do it, it's usually because they're too low. Okay. So like let's say you're in the yard, the helicopter comes by, she's freaking out, she's pulling at the end of the leash, and you're tapping at 65, and she's just going, and you can see she feels it, but she's going. She's so scared that she's overriding 65. So then I go 75, 85, 95, boom, good girl, right?
For the moment, do you leave it that high for the next time, or do you bring it back down?
For the moment, you would bring it back down, right? Now the next time, you can take that as a reference point.
Got it.
Oh, we see the helicopter's coming. I'm gonna just jump it because that's what I needed last time, right? So we can get there quicker. So we're going up gradually because you're doing like research, if you will. Now, if you, let's say, when you work with Shelby this week, you always start at 10, you work your way up like I showed you, and if you always land at 65 for a week straight, it's safe to assume that 65 is the dog's working number in that setting. Okay, it could be different at Ellis Park, it could be different in the backyard with the helicopter. There's different contexts. So it's really common sense, and you'll just find yourself kind of going up and down on the collar, depending on the context. Okay, let's go ahead and cue her break one more time. Break. And wait a moment.
Place.
And a girl. Get it. Then we're going to go and walk around. That's all fine. Now what I'm going to have you do here is come in and go and pet her a little bit. I'm going to praise her, good girl. Good. And you're going to step away. She should stay put. Good. So if we have her on place, and one of the kids comes, Shelby, they're petting and hugging on her and stuff, and they run off, she should stay put. Okay? Until we say break, her job is to hold this position.
Got it.
Okay? So it's like sending a kid to the room. All right, go to your room.
These examples work with kids, just not my kids. Maybe that's why I need to work with you, right?
That was my mom's thing, right? Friends coming over just to go to your room. You're not in trouble, I don't care what you do. Play video games, read a book, whatever. Just don't step out of your room, right? Same thing here. Shelby, go here. We don't care what you do, but just don't step off of it. Okay? So, questions about this so far?
No, makes sense.
Okay. Now this tends to be a fan favorite with a lot of families because it's the simplest level of stationary control. Okay. Because you can go to a restaurant, have the kids there, pop Shelby on the blanket, go to a place, she can sit, stand, lay down. Someone can come by and pet her, good girl, and she could stand up and wiggle, and that would be fine because she's not breaking the area. Now if I had Shelby in a down command and she sat up, we would have to correct that because she's breaking the down position. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Question so far?
Nope, makes sense.
All right, let's go and cue her into the break.
Break.
So right there, we covered the send to place, okay? So there's two aspects to the place command. The send, which is Shelby place, and she goes. When you go home, unless Brittany's already been working on this, if she has a dog bed, you're gonna have to transfer this to that object. So you would just set her up with a leash, find that number like we did today, place, start tapping, and then guide her with the leash. She has to now go like, oh, this must be the new one. You repeat that for like 3 to 5 minutes, and then you should see her when you say place, she just goes there. Then you can assume she's learned the concept.
Then you say repeat, like you walk away from it, you break, and then you come back.
Correct. Yeah. So whenever we want a dog to get something more quickly, we cue it and release back to back. Okay? Because if you do it every now and then, she'll pick it up. It's just going to take longer. Okay? And you can have more than one place within the home.
Makes sense.
You can have one in the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, what have you. You can also have one that you just move around, and she'll learn to recognize that singular object. Okay? Just important that it's something that's a clear perimeter. Okay? So like let's say she's on the couch, or you want to do place on the couch. I've seen people take a blanket and cover like a section of the couch and use that as their place. It's perfectly fine because that blanket or towel that they're using is separating that half from the rest of the couch. Okay? Just going to bring Shelby over this way. Come here. Good. And what I'm going to have you do here is go ahead and say sit.
Sit.
Good. Now when we cue the sit, in the video, you may have seen Enrique like lightly pulling up on the leash and tapping. So upward pressure on the throat and then slight pressure. We don't need a lot, just slight pressure. Cues the dog into a sitting position. Okay, so the way the mechanics work is if she's standing like this, and we put pressure here, raising the head naturally brings down the butt. Okay, so we use that to our advantage, and we put slight pressure on the throat and the tapping, or up, slight pressure here, pressure on the hindquarters, and we're tapping until she gives into that. Okay. So the pressure here for Shelby to make everything reliable is it's uncomfortable, right? And no one likes to be uncomfortable. Our instinct is typically to remove ourselves. So we're teaching Shelby, hey, we're guiding you, and we have this pressure on, right? And if you go with what we give you, everything's going to disappear. So then she was like, oh, when I feel this, if I do this, it goes away. And that's what gets us the reliability of it, because then if later on, if there's a more distracting environment, and I raise a number, I can raise that discomfort to match the environment so that she's like, okay, I have to do this. You know, so just like with children, there's escalating forms of punishment from taking away things and time out and all that stuff. With dogs, there's only really one type of aversive they understand, and that's physicality. Okay, because they bite each other. So that's what I tell everybody, the e-collar is kind of like a bite on a bite. So here, we're going to review the sit and the down commands. Okay? So go ahead and give a little bit of slack on your leash there. And you're into, I believe in the video, you may have seen Enrique make like a little loop and then step on the leash. So yeah, on the inside there. Good. And with very light pressure up on the leash, I'll go ahead and you're gonna start to pull up. Yeah, like that. And go ahead and cue down. Right, so let's lay that. Go ahead and relax your foot. You give her a little bit of praise here.
Good job.
So you did just now what we call a nonverbal down. When she felt the slight pressure on the back of her neck, she knew it's going to be this position.
Got it.
Right? So most people think if you teach a dog to sit down using food, that when you apply remote, it's simple. You just tell the dog down. If they don't do it, you just remote them. That is incorrect. We have to shape everything through pressure. A dog's first instinct, and especially a dog like Shelby, is almost always going to be to run away.
Got it.
Okay, so we use physical guidance or leash pressure paired with remote pressure to condition the dog that this is a form of communication.
So are you giving her a chance when you say it like that with the sit, when you're talking about the pulling off or this, are you trying to use the leash first or are you using it simultaneously?
In the beginning, it's the command, you have your leash ready. You give the command, no response. We give the remote, no response, and then we add in the leash.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So I was prepping you for the command, but she felt it and she just went down. Okay, so it wasn't anything that you did wrong. She just felt that tiny little touch in the neck, and she goes, "Oh, I know what this is." Okay. But it really should be that easy. It shouldn't be a struggle to get a dog to sit her down. We're going to put this on cue, of course. The leash is there in case she gets panicked or confused, that the pressure from the leash is guidance. Okay? So kind of like earlier when you were here, Shelby was like this, right? She wanted to get away. And you said place, and you tapped, and you have to give guidance to direct her back this way. Same concept here. Okay? So go ahead and cue the word sit.
Sit.
Tap. Tap. And then lightly up on the leash. Tap. And then relax. Good. Okay? So you gave the cue, you started tapping, you hit that second to third tap, and she started looking around, and then when you added that slight bit of pressure with the tap, boom, she popped up. Because right now, she's not used to this with you, right? She's used to it with us, because everybody's done it here, but we now have to transfer all the obedience over to you.
Got it.
So people typically think, oh, I said my dog, they get trained, and they come back and have this product. I go, no, the dog is trained with us. And we have to transfer that to you, which is why I did that video, right? It's not like a car. You can say, hey, paint my car blue and, lift it 4 inches and come back and have that product. So here, you're going to cue the down. You're going to do those slow taps like you were, and then you're going to step on the leash if needed.
So down, first is down.
And wait a moment.
Down.
And then praise. Good girl. And a girl. And you're going to cue the sit.
Sit.
Right, and then relax. Good.
Did you see her response?
Yeah.
Put to the dog.
Oh, to the parking lot? That's Apollo. Yep.
That's a good name.
Yep. Straight up, big, and then relax. Perfect. Okay, so here, you cue the sit, she got a little distracted, and then she starts to lay down, right? Same thing, you have to correct that, to keep it to what sit is. And this is something that people tend to kind of blow off. And they're like, oh, well, dog's not doing anything bad, she's getting more comfortable. I'm like, but again, it creates unreliable obedience, right? Anytime you give her a gray area, unreliable obedience, okay? So you're doing good. You're being very strict, and dogs thrive with black and white. I know I may not look it right now because she's obviously stressed, but more exposure. And feel free, if you're working on this at home like Brittany here, is you can add in rewards to this. Okay? And we personally use high value stuff. We use cheese sticks, sausage, turkey, bologna. Lots of dogs have no allergies. I use the really good stuff, okay? Because we're training to a very high degree.
But it's after she does it, not to get her to do it.
Exactly. That is exactly right. We feed after the dog has done the work. So just like my employees work, and then I write them a check, I don't pay them first. Right? And then relax, wait a moment. Good. And
so from an obedience perspective, is there a difference when you want to use sit or down?
So sit is momentary control. Okay, like let's say you're walking with her, she's in a loose leash, she's just sniffing, you see a neighbor, and it's going to be a short 3-minute conversation, sit, right? Because it's going to be 3 minutes. If it's like, hey, we're going to be here for 15, 20 minutes, down, right? Let's see what she does. She's thinking about it. And even though she's a little, there it is, tip, and then relax. But you see how she hopped right back into that sitting position, right? So here,
when you're teaching, can I ask you another question from the video? You're teaching her, were you teaching her to be on your left side because you're holding the leash on the left side, or was it to be the left side is specific and unique?
So left side comes from heel. Heel traditionally is taught on the left side because people carry the guns on the right side. So we don't want to shoot our dogs, right? So that's where it comes from.
Okay.
Also, if you're right-handed, it's actually easier to teach a dog on the left.
Okay.
So here, she could be on either side because you're not doing any type of healing stuff, right?
So that was unique to heel, though, the specific on the left side.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're just walking with Shelby and she's not in the command of heel, she can be all over the place because there is no command to give it.
Got it.
The moment you cue that word of heel, boom, she'd have to be on that hip.
Got it. Okay.
So sit, momentary stationary control. Okay, because as you can see, dogs tend to get tired or they want to lay down. Tip, tip, and pull your left tip, tip. There we go. That's fine. Perfect. Very good. And you see how she just kind of found that position again. Now here, she starts to go over to your right side, right? And you correct her. And if it was given here, we ideally want to get her here as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if she goes from this here to sitting here, she still broke the command. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be perfect yet. But there you go. A general area like that's still acceptable. Okay. So here, we can see with us having a conversation, Shelby's getting a little antsy, right? This is all part of the process.
Got it.
Okay. So, and you're not having to say anything, right? It's all press of a button. You cue to sit once, and the tap is essentially reinforcing everything, right?
Got it.
So the more pressure you put on her under to keep her still, the more stress you're going to create. Okay, and this is again just part of the process. Eventually, she's going to just learn like, okay, like if I just sit still, I will get no more taps, and everything's fine, right? And this is just a normal thing. And also, if you pair in food with this, it'll make it there you go. Yep. Excellent. Easier for her. Okay. So how you stuff if you choose to do so, like you said, she has to do the work first and then be paid. You don't use it to make her do the work. Okay. So going to cue her into a down.
So we'll do down.
Right. Wait a moment. There it is. Yeah, girl. So down is meant for longer term control. Right? So technically, if you go to a restaurant, you have place. You also have down. But down would be more strict. Okay? So if we did do that, what we do is if I'm sitting down at the restaurant or whatever, right? I step on the leash. And I only give the dog like maybe 6 inches of slack. So this way, if I feel any movement pulling my foot up, I know she's trying to get up. I would correct her. She lays back down and go back to eating. Right? Because if I take my foot off, I don't know if she's going anywhere, right? In the early stages. So here, down can be used at any point. It doesn't need a perimeter.
Got it.
Okay.
So do you use down in place as alternatives, or can you use, or is place sufficient? I guess what I'm saying is if she's in place, if she's in command, should you use down on top of that, or are those meant to be unique?
Yes, those are unique.
So it's either or.
Correct.
Got it.
So if you send Shelby to place, and then you tell her down, she's in a down command, not a place command.
Until you break.
Yes, because your new command always overrides the previous command.
Got it.
So even if you said down and then down again, that's a whole new down. Same command, but new one. Okay? So think of down as like, it's more strict, right? So if you're gonna do something and you wanna have to not worry about Shelby as much, I would opt for this. More lenient. Less for you to have to think about, right? If you're in a setting where it's like, oh, like, yeah, I'll be able to pay attention to her, I can be more strict with her, down.
Got it.
Okay. So that's why I give people the options. Okay. Or if it's just like you show up and there's nothing for you to use as a perimeter, down. Okay. You still have some form of stationary control. Now these commands are meant to be used for extended periods of time. Okay, for as long as you want. Like you literally put Shelby on place and have her there for 6 hours. Okay, or 2 hours or 30 minutes. You pick and choose. Dogs sleep 16 to 20 hours a day. You're not being mean. You're just picking where she's doing it. Okay, so like here throughout the day, we do a couple hours of duration work, and she does that as well. And that's what I was saying earlier. That's what she struggles with, because she'll like see the puppies playing, she'll see the dogs playing, she'll be sitting there like, hey, like, what about me, right? So like if the kids are playing, you know, and she's used to playing with the kids or whatever, it's a great form of impulse control to teach her like, hey, the kids can play and you don't have to be a part of it always, okay?
So she thinks.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
And I was going to wait to the end, but I just thought of something because you were talking about earlier about the shaking and the being tough and with the puppies and biting. So particularly this week, she's been more bitey. And is that because she's been with the dogs and biting and back and forth and playing with the dogs, or is that?
What is she biting with? Like, is it with the kids running around playing, or is it just like in general with like with just in the home?
No, more with playing.
How old is she now?
She's 7 months.
7 months. Did her all the teeth come out already?
Yeah.
They did, okay. Because last time they'd be part of the teething stage.
Yeah, no, she's already past that.
Gotcha. So it can just be frustration where she wants to play. I mean, dogs play using their mouths.
Yeah. She's not biting to hurt, like it's not.
Yeah, it's playful biting. But because she plays with the puppies, right? And she's not a big biter.
Okay.
Like she talking, like she'll like play chase and stuff. Like she's actually like a more passive player. That's why I was asking about the energy, because like if it's the kids like running around screaming or whatever.
Well, that's when it happens, is when they're running around and screaming.
Then it's the energy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the energy. So like the ways you can correct that would be to use this tool. So if you want to use the e-collar to correct something, because it does both teach something and teach not to do something.
Got it.
Okay. Is like, let's say at 3 o'clock, you know the kid's gonna run around the play. 2:30, I collar her up. Okay. And I have a number already. And we can either put her here and prevent it from happening, or she's on her own time, and the kids start running around, and the moment you see her going to nip and play, you would start tapping. You would work your way up until you find a number that dissuades her. So I wouldn't jump in straight at 65.
Got it.
Okay. So the reason why we're starting low and going up is because we know it's nothing truly harmful.
Yep.
Right? Is if you come in too harsh for a behavior like that, it's gonna dissuade her from the kids. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I'm just trying to go again low enough, high enough that I'm gonna stop, but low enough that I'm not making her freaked out about it.
Got it.
So we always start at 10, I'm tapping, 15, 20, whatever, and eventually you'll see her kind of back off. She'll kind of look like, what? And then she'll play a bit, right? And then she'll try again, boom, you tap. She kind of thinks about it. And eventually she'll be like, oh, like I can play. Just can't put my mouth on them.
Yep.
Okay? We do it all the time for like dogs that come in. They're like rough players.
My kids are really wild and they're very physical.
Sure.
And she seems to enjoy that, but then at some point, particularly my younger guy who we think is getting carried away, she runs right back to him. Like she loves to engage with him, but then at some point, actually she probably bites at my older son more, but part of that I think is he holds toys like this for her. And I'm trying to teach her, because that's teaching her to reach for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she seems to enjoy the physical engagement, and then sometimes it just gets, I guess to use the analogies you were with, like with the little kids, it's just they're overstimulated.
Yes.
And that's when I notice her doing it. So,
yes.
Okay. Cool.
So, and you can disagree with it. Okay. She is capable of learning. I can play, but not put my mouth. Right. Now at the same time, we have the kid component. Right. So I would actually, it's always a balance of both in my book.
Yep.
Where it's like, like, hey, you guys can play with her, but do be mindful that doing stuff like this makes her escalate.
Yep.
But then at the same time, we correct her. So like the kids are doing their part, but she's still escalating, then we have to address her.
Got it.
Right? But then if we address her, but the kids are still kind of provoking, that's where we get some conflict. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense, because I think like with my when I'm trying to think through this, my younger guy is very much like in her face, but she doesn't bite at him. That's not, because when it's calm, even he kind of, in a way, like not even very forcefully, but he puts his head into her. It's kind of a way of comfort for him, I guess. But she doesn't bite at that. She bites at the physical running and
the chasing, and the jumping, and the screaming.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
So that's all energy stuff. And don't be concerned if like you correct and you see her do get dissuaded. Okay, just have the kids ignore her. They keep doing their thing, and over time, as that keeps repeating, she will warm back up into it. You'll never really fully lose something. She just, because now when we put rules to playing, it's not as fun anymore. Right? With the kids, like, hey guys, you can play, but keep it here, right? And they're like, what? Like, but then we can't play. Same thing for the dog. So throughout the years, obviously, because I grew up with, I'm the oldest of like, I think maybe a total of 10 to 12 kids. Some of us like my mom.
That's a lot. I knew you were going to say a lot. Yeah.
By 6 to 7 years, I'm the oldest. So I saw all these kids being raised, and I helped raise them, right? And I'm like, man, like working with the dogs and like raising kids is like the same. Like it's a lot of the same stuff. It's just we see things a bit differently than they do. So I'm perfectly fine with, you know, I tell everybody, it's fine to rough with the dog and stuff, but just understand that dogs will at some point escalate, and they play with their mouths, and then somebody misconstrues it.
Got it.
Right? Because I've had lots of little kids where they're like playing with the dog, and the dog nips at them, and it's a playful nip, but then the kid misinterprets it as a bite. You know? But from what I've seen from her, I mean, she's a good dog. She's just flighty.
Yep.
You know? So, any other questions aside from that?
No.
So here, with these 3 commands, these give you things to work on within the home.
Yep.
Okay? So what I would suggest is, you know, 1 session for you, 1 session for your wife, is 3 to 5 minutes a day. Just cycle through these 3 commands.
Got it.
Okay? So I'll show you what that's going to look like here. Because right now you're doing sitting down back to back, right? Tap and pull it back. Tap, tap, tap. A little more pressure. Tap, tap. Yeah. Now what you're going to do here is pull towards your side and shorten your leash a bit. Perfect. And pull in a little bit more. Tap. And then wait a moment. Now here, we're going to relax that leash and you're going to step on it. And tap. And wait a moment. Perfect. Right there. Because what happened was, she was in a down. I brought out the placemat. And she goes, oh, we're going to do that now? And I said, well, I didn't tell you that, right? Yeah. So here, the moment she breaks a position, and you're doing great, you're not repeating. You're shortening your leash. I saw you jumping to the remote, which is really good. Okay, most people, again, lay off the remote. So here, you shorten, and then once we pull her back, she will get to the point where you'll see her just go right back into position. But right now, she needs a little bit more guidance. So that's why we go to the leash pressure, so we don't have to repeat again.
Got it.
Okay? Tap, tap, tap. Almost. Tap. Tap, tap. And relax. Perfect. Okay? So when you do this exercise, you can see here, obviously the first time she saw it, she wanted to go for it. But then after a few seconds, she wants to go for it again. We like to put gap or space between each command.
Got it.
Okay, so I would go sit, down, place, sit, down, place, sit. You're going to create that pattern. And I want her to think through things, okay? So instead of telling her place, because clearly this is what she wants to do, go ahead and cue her into a sit.
Sit.
Tip. Good, and then relax, wait a moment. Go ahead and step a little bit to your right. Good, up tip. Right, she should stay put. So sit down in place of course it means you don't move, even if I move. Okay? Go ahead and say place.
Place.
Yep.
I have to.
There we go, good girl.
So can I ask you another question about place? Place doesn't have to be unique to the command, right? It can be a space you talked about, like having a bed or a blanket or something. She can go there on her own when she's not under.
Yes, that's correct. Now just remember, if Shelby goes to her dog bed and no one's said anything to her, she's free to leave it, right? Because a lot of people get confused and they'll correct the dog, right? So, and also be mindful, like, is it going to just be you and your wife working with her, or you're just going to jump in?
Okay, they're too little to.
Okay, cool. Because I'll say, because if somebody gives her a command and then it's not reinforced, and maybe the kids go, come on, Shelby, go to your bed, right? And then she's breaking off of it, and then it's like a command technically that she's breaking, right? Now, what will happen is it'll be more so relationship based. She'll know, like, oh, when it's the kids, I don't have to listen, but when it's mom and dad, I have to listen. Okay, so it's just, just like with kids, right? I knew I could get away with stuff when grandma's around. And when mom, it was just mom. There was no playing games. Want to go break?
Break.
girl. And sit. Good girl. Going and down.
Down. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, the girl. Good. And sit.
Sit.
Yep. Now you see here, go ahead and relax your leash and just tap the button. See how there's no movement?
Mm-hmm.
We've lost contact. Go ahead and bump it 5 levels. Yep. Now go ahead and bump it. There it is.
Sit.
And then relax. Good.
Now when that happens, should I leave it at this level for the time being?
What's the number now?
It's at 80, 79.
Let's go back down to 65. And that's what we would call troubleshooting. Okay? Is recognizing right off the bat, because you'll see the contraption,
yep.
right? Is, oh, there's no contact, and then I just start to play with the number until I achieve it, and then I'll move forward with the command. Okay? Now this comes in handy, again, emergency type situation.
Yep.
Is if you're used to troubleshooting, and she's in flight response, like you already know it. Okay, so instead of adjusting and resetting the collar like a lot of people like to do, because like, oh, there's no contact, I'll fix it. I'm like, life's not going to afford you the ability to fix it all the time. Is you need to learn how to make it happen in the moment. Okay, and then afterwards, once you've done it and you've fixed everything, whatever, you can then adjust it if needed. Okay, try place one more time.
Place. Place.
There we go. Good girl. Okay. So at home, you don't need a lot of space. Just cycling between the sit, down, and place commands. Okay. Not creating any kind of pattern. That's super important. Okay. Because if you do sit down, place, right?
Sure.
Right. So then we want to change it up and go between the commands randomly, and also putting space in between each command. Okay. So down, wait a few seconds, sit, down, place, right? So that she doesn't get paranoid and start jumping between commands. But then also that space between, as you saw earlier, it's like earlier when she wants to run to the place, also allows her the time to make mistakes so that we can correct them. And she's like, oh, you have to wait till I tell you to do something. Okay. If you're going to add a reward, place, and then once she goes, then you feed. Right. Break, down. As soon as she downs, then you feed. Sit, then you feed. After she's completed the command, you would then feed. If she does not take the food, it just means her stress levels are too high. Okay, so I don't worry about trying to force it because it's not going to happen. Okay. But I might try at the very end of the session, because typically stress levels go higher at the beginning, and then once the dog gets it, they go down. So then if you see she takes it at the end, good, give her a couple, end it, we're done. Okay. And you keep repeating that, and eventually, if she takes food from the beginning of the training, that tells me her stress levels are now low enough, even at the start, to even accept food. So it's a nice kind of indicator to tell where she's at in terms of stress. Okay? Questions about this?
No, it makes sense.
So you have nice indoor exercises to use, and then ideally, it's a little bit warmer. The next class where I see you guys, we'll work on the heel. Okay. Which when you use it, you be doing outside stuff, and you cover the recall type of things. Okay. Any other questions?
No, it makes sense.
So she's doing good. Let us know what they tell you. In terms of her cough and stuff, because it was her and then one other dog yesterday that we noticed that we're doing it. Okay. So then they're letting everybody know. But luckily we keep the puppies with the puppies. Okay. So it's not going to spread to and everybody. So okay. Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Great.